Yo, what's up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the show. Jump Street episode 135, like we just established, right?
Wow, 135.
Woo!
And we're having it with a very special guest who we had on episode 2.
In the same spot.
Yeah, same spot. Over 4 years ago.
Damn, 4 years ago.
Crazy to think about.
A lot has changed in 4 years.
Do you mind if I shut down the podcast really quick?
Oh my God, already? We are 40 seconds in? Okay, fine.
Everybody, it's Austin's birthday.
Hey, we didn't have to do that. Thank you.
Happy birthday,
We did
man.
last year's podcast on your birthday, too.
Yeah.
And at your place. And that's crazy. We did it at your place in Long Beach on your
Yep.
birthday. Now we're here on my birthday.
Crazy.
Welcome to my birthday party, everybody. Thank you for joining.
That's awesome. We got to do some. We got to get some food after this, some pizza.
Oh, the pizza. Yeah, we didn't have any pizza.
We got to do pizza.
Well, I got to thank my lovely girlfriend. She ordered me lunch before. So I had a little sandwich before we started and a cupcake.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Episode 135. We got a lot going on this episode. Like I said, we have a very special guest. I'm very excited to have CK down here. We've had him on with his brother 2 different times, but this is the first time we're having just Colin on, so I'm very excited for this episode. We got a lot coming up. We have a WTF. We have all this stuff. But first, as you know, I got to say my spiel. So please, if you don't already, follow us on all of our social media platforms. We have a Facebook. You can give us a like. You can go to our YouTube page. You can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. So when we do have these episodes, you can get an alert on your phone. We have an iTunes. You can listen to us while you're at work. It's audio complete. And if you like what you're hearing, you can give us a 5-star rating. You can give us a review. And we really appreciate that. It helps give us a little boost. And we also have a Patreon. If you would like to be a member of our Patreon community, you could do so for $3 a month. When you become a Patreon, we have exclusive content. We do trick tips. We call them Inside Outs. We have section reviews with our guests. We're going to hopefully watch 1 or 2 things with Colin after the episode today. So I'm excited for that. And when you become a Patreon member, you automatically get entered in our monthly giveaway. We do this every month, and you could win something for free from our online store, whether it's one of the lovely 5-panel hats that Austin has on right now, one of the nice shirts that Austin has on right now.
Got it all. He's like a walking billboard over
or one of these lovely mugs that we all have in front of us. So that's the spiel.
Oh, that's the spiel. Well, thank you for the spiel. According to my notes right here, we have 2 new Patreon supporters. I got to thank real fast before we continue. Anthony B. and Sri. I'm going to mess this one up. I should have practiced this one. Sri Vaishnav. Thank you so much for supporting the show and in this podcast. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode. I want to give a shout out to Blank for sponsoring this episode. Everybody, it's the holiday season. Please, if you haven't already, check out the new Blank 2023 Team Skate in pigeon blue colorway, which is a very unique color. I really too how they do the 2023 Team Skate. It's like a car. It's like the year before. Like, you gotta get the 2023 model, not the 2022s. Those are old. Those are outdated.
Right.
The 2023. Check it out. Also, Sean Keen, Blank Team Rider, just put out a new promo for his Pro Skate, which is also Blank Skate, all black, flat rocker setup with the hydrogen wheels. So check that out also. But the Team Skate is also out now. Should be available worldwide now in all sizes because the Sean Keen skate was a beta model before, so there wasn't full sizes available. So if you're ever interested before and you couldn't get them, check out the Blank 2023 Team Skate, available worldwide right now. Give them a follow on Instagram at Blank Rolling Products and check out their website for more info as well, blankrollingproducts.com. So thank you for sponsoring this episode.
It was a beta model. Now it's an alpha model. It's ready to go.
That's how we do it.
It's ready to take over.
That's how we do it.
Nah, that new part that Sean put out was really sick too. He
Yeah.
had the alley wall ride to forward wall ride.
Yeah.
To fakie.
He always just surprises us every time he puts out a new edit.
Yeah.
And we both mentioned on the show many times that he's like one of our favorite skaters and most interesting to watch out there.
Yep.
So check out that promo by Sean Keen.
Definitely. And also, it's Sunday, and I know a lot of our favorite skate companies are doing some Black Friday sales that go into the weekend, and today might be the last day for some. It's the last day for ours at Heavy Distribution. We have a Black Friday sale going on, so you could get 20% off on shirts, hats, or the John Bellino V1 skates. So, anyone who wants to do some Black Friday shopping, there's some great deals going around the whole community. And at heavydistribution.com. So you can check that out. And today's our last day.
Woo! Let's also move on to our WTF this week, which I don't think this person has had a WTF yet, which is surprising in a way.
Right.
Right? Am I wrong?
No, I think it's great that he has a WTF.
It is great. This week's WTF is brought to us by Patreon supporter Jeremy Bambry, and we have none other than Chris Edwards. Again, how would you call this? 270 like unity on a vert ramp, but one foot's doing a toe slide on top, and one of them is on the ramp itself, avoiding the coping with both feet.
Yeah, it's really wild to see Chris do this. Like this,
no shin guards too, by the way.
This really shocked me when I saw this clip because it comes up like a 270 back unity.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what you call it.
But he drags the toe and he kind of set slides the other foot.
Dude, that's
like a 270 backslide, set slide.
Is that an old school trick of his, or is that like a new one?
I don't know.
Because a lot of his old school tricks are like new school ones now because of the way he skated back in the day was very different, very innovative.
Yeah, I don't know.
And now that's like the style.
I don't know what that's called, but it was really impressive. I don't know. That's crazy. So
it is.
Shout out to Chris Edwards for that one.
Hell yeah, Chris! Congrats on being WTF. Now you could add that to your what do you call that?
List of achievements.
List of achievements. I was gonna say resume. Your skate resume.
Your skate resume of achievements.
Now you're qualified for any other movies you want to be in.
First down rail, first kink rail. In movies.
First down rail just passed also.
And
like
now
last week.
Also he's been featured on a WTF of the week on Jump Street. So
the first down rail anniversary was last week too, November 21st, right? And it's the 27th.
Yeah. I guess the 31st year.
Yeah,
right?
31st. Mm-hmm. Of course, Chris got to remind us, you got to follow him on Instagram, airman_CE for all the updates on that. I think the last thing we got to do before we move on, everyone, please check out Jump Supplements, jumpsubs.com. Me and Billy personally handpicked a few supplements that we feel every skater can benefit from the Ultra Joint Flex. If you have your knees, any problems with your knees, your joints, anything like that. Platinum Turmeric. Multivitamin to keep you feeling good on a daily basis. CBD oil for anxiety and stress. We have a krill oil. So check out jumpsubs.com. We ship free domestically in the United States. Internationally, we ship to Italy, Australia, Canada, and the UK. We have deals on bundles if you want to buy a bunch of them, maybe for a skater friend of yours for the holiday season. You can save big on those bottles. Check out the link in the description or go to jumpsubs.com and check them out for yourself. Boom.
Very cool.
Are we ready to move on to our very special guest?
I think so.
What do you guys in the crowd say? You want to hear to see our guest? Everybody, please welcome the one, the only, Mr. Colin Kelso. Join in, sir. I definitely got to adjust some cameras here.
Crazy to think, man. Episode 2. It was our first time having guests on, and it was right here. And it kind of, that was like the thing that legitimized our podcast, because our first episode was Austin and I. And we were like, well, I don't know. Is anyone going to want to do this? Are any of our friends or pro skaters going to want to come on to a podcast and chat? And you guys came on, and it kind of like started the ball rolling to, having other people in the community come on. So it's crazy that we're doing it here again over 4 years later and for the first time with just you.
Well, I was honored then. I'm honored now. I'm fans of what you guys do and what you contribute to rollerblading with this podcast. So I'm ready to geek out and talk about some rollerblading.
Very cool, man. It's cool because, you can really tell that you're super invested in blading, not just by the work that you contribute, like on the surface level, that's obvious to see, but just in like your approach to skating, your thoughtfulness to skating. It seems like lately you've been also very thoughtful in your approach and like a lot of intention. So I guess, we've started this podcast like different ways, but, I think we've done that before with you. So I think it'd be cool to maybe start at a place where maybe talking about like your approach to skating and where some of these ideas come from, because I think definitely, at least in this like last, for a long time you have been, but like to stay relevant and to stay being able to contribute new stuff, even in this, like you've had like a really great year of skating. And where do those ideas come from, and where does that thoughtfulness and care come from?
Great question. And I'm going to be more than happy to answer that one. First and foremost, I'm a fan of skating. Since I found my first video and saw what people were doing, I knew that I loved watching skate videos. I wanted to emulate what I saw in those videos and test it out on my own terms. And that truly is what continues to make skating fun. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some of the heavy contributions that Canada has made to rollerblading. I'm sure you knew that was coming.
Not specifically that, but yeah.
I mean, it makes sense though. And in this episode, I also want to call out how amazing it is to see people see things through and stick with them. Because I'll admit, when I first saw what Joey and Todd were doing with mushroom blading, it didn't make much sense or resonate with me because I was very protective of what I thought skating should be. But as they continued to, stay with their approach, I think the moves became more in depth. I think it inspired other people to try some of those approaches. And in recent times, I sort of had like an epiphany when I saw people like Leon and Stu doing like some of the wizard blading stuff. And I'm going to make a little skateboard comparison here for a second. So bear with me if you don't like when people make those comparisons. But I think what's magical about skateboarding is the idea that the board can leave the ground. It's not attached to your feet. And being able to see the board pop and somersault, flip, whatever, that's magical. And we often have heard, especially those skating in the 90s, oh, rollerblading's easier, it's attached to your feet. And that's true because logically, if you jump, your skates are coming with you. But maybe the magic with rollerblading is seeing people be able to spin on the ground without leaving the ground. And when I saw the swivels, the gazelles, the lions, toe presses, heel presses, where people were finding creative ways to use the ground, I thought to myself as like a traditional tech ledge skater, like, I need to reimagine how I'm going to skate, how I skate, and perhaps incorporating some of these movements can make my technical skating even more technical. It was like a new horizon to explore. It was exciting. It's fresh. I still don't even know the vocab for some of these movements.
It's tough. It's definitely tough.
It's tough. I found even like within like some of the more classic tricks, like vocab can be like a regional thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of controversy, also like a lot of skate grinds in general. That's just like part of our sport, unfortunately.
Right.
So this is like wizard skating is like another version to add on to that, I think.
What is language though, after all, right? You're just trying to convey what you see inside your head. So as long as the person you're talking to understands it, then you've successfully been able to communicate. But it's kind of funny, like if I'm out filming with Sean and we're trying to explain some of the things we're doing, we don't really have like a vocab to it. It's just more like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. I find myself demonstrating it on the ground.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And I think it might offend him at times because he's like, dude, just say what you want to say. Like, why are you like showing me?
I didn't think about that too though, because somebody also commented one time that for like the wizard skating shit, like they like, well, they actually do those videos too. What do they call it? Product. I don't know. They have like a series, mushroom blading on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen their videos, but they pretty much do that. Like they'll put the camera to their face, like, I'm going to do 1 foot wizard, lion, swivel, front side, toe, bonk, this, that. And then they do the trick. And it's part of like what makes it interesting is because you actually get to hear the language. I don't know how serious it is because I also don't know most of the language as well. But that's similar to what you said too, because if you watch a lot of basement videos, you can't really interpret. And a lot of your clips have been shared in groups that I'm in, and people always are like, "That's awesome! Like, what is that called?" Or try to like reference something that you did, and you can't just explain it. You have to show it like physically with your feet or your hands or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's been fun though, just experimenting with new ideas and trying to incorporate it into like the street stuff that we do.
Yeah.
But more or less, it's just finding ways to stay inspired, to continue doing what it is we love to do, which is skate, make videos.
Do you still feel like some like responsibility to like protect it? Because even like I feel like I was able to relate to that when you said that. Like, oh, I definitely know that feeling. And do I still have that feeling? Yes, I think I still do. And I ask because I feel like you do a really good job of taking that stuff, and I don't want to say, because I don't want to take it from anyone else and say like legitimize it, but it's kind of like successfully intertwined with like what it is that we have traditionally done.
Right. I'm going to try my best to quote my friend Ben Magaziner. He has a really good podcast with the mushroom blading guys where he touches on this topic a little bit. But more or less, he was talking about pedagogy and basically like rules or certain disciplines that certain sports have when it comes to educating other people. Like when rollerblading was in its infancy, it created a canon of tricks quickly, so it looked like we knew what we were doing and we didn't look like a bunch of buffoons out there on the course. Like we had a legit sport with tricks, etc. And growing up, especially hailing from Philadelphia, where people were very outspoken and heavily opinionated on correct ways to skate, like, yeah, of course, some of that rubbed off on me. And more so, I say this as a fan, but I like to keep some of that alive, but while also keeping the door open to accept some of the more fringe-like experimental ideas. I don't take any credit for that. I really do think I need to mention like people like Leon Stu, Joey Todd, Colin Martin, Junq, Mike Torres. I've really paid attention to a lot of what they've been doing, and they've been at this for quite some time. But those individuals, particularly, not limited to that group, but definitely worth noting that I've definitely borrowed a ton, and just wanted to give them a shout out because they deserve it, because they're awesome.
Definitely. Hell yeah, they definitely do. That's all. You named a lot of my personal inspirations, more recent than ever. Were you always that open to trying new styles of skating and different techniques and applying them to your skating? Because even for years and years and years, and you said you're from Philly also, which we talked about on the show before, it's like a very strict upbringing on standards and everything. But were you always that open to different styles of skating? Because mushroom blading and wizard blading have kind of been around for a bit. Not much wizard, but more mushroom. But like now you're embracing it more than ever the last couple of years.
Absolutely. I think the first time when I can cite myself trying to learn new progressive things was that time period when like wheelbarrows, training wheels, boardwalks, hobos, those tricks where you're rolling on a wheel or something. I feel like there was a time in skating's history when those were like new school tricks. And I guess that would have been maybe the first time where it was like, oh, look at these new tricks. Like, this looks fun. A lot of people I admire are doing it. So maybe that had something to do with it. Was you saw a lot of people that had bigger names in videos doing them, like executed with what back then would be considered good style and form. So that made me want to try those tricks. But remember, they went through a period of time where it was like taboo. It was
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't cool.
Oh yeah.
So I feel though, like if you consistently skate for like long periods of time and you learn some of the basics and you continue to find ways to reimagine ways of doing something, sometimes you have no choice but to go back to the taboo and try to figure out how to make it look right so it might actually have a place in modern day skating. Wasn't there a quote in the Mind Game video that said, "You must learn the rules first before you can break them properly"?
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously that quote rubbed off on me in some sort of way. I know that video had touched a lot of people's hearts and changed the way they look at skating. So I think just with time and experience, if you're going to continue to want to have fun, I think experimentation is part of that recipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. Can
Definitely.
you remember like specific? I'm just trying to think of this now. That's why I'm asking you specific training wheel clips or people who did training wheels, wheelbarrows really, really well in a certain way that inspired you to try them yourself. So I'm thinking of a few. I'm thinking of like Dominic Sagona did a lot of really cool variations of that.
Dominic absolutely is one of those individuals. I want to say though, back then, I definitely remember John Julio doing a training wheel to training wheel switch up, which had some flavor to it. I think it was suitable material.
You're thinking of Webby because I remember that clip like it was yesterday. John did the fish brain to fish brain. Webby did in TBTV1 training wheel to training wheel.
Good catch. Thank you.
Did I just know something more than Colin Kelso?
No, I appreciate that. That's wow. My memory's going.
Yeah, that was Webby though. That was one of my
you
favorite.
Specifically redid that one.
I specifically redid that one. Yeah, because I've been trying to do that for like 20 years. Yeah.
Okay, Daily Bread, Matt Mance, maybe with some purple fatties doing a boardwalk. Backwards hat, baggy dungarees.
Yeah.
He definitely put some flavor on that one.
Yeah. There's been some good
TJ
ones.
Weber had a good hobo.
What is a hobo? I can't think of what.
Isn't it the backslide with the alley toe?
Okay. Yeah. I never knew that was called a hobo.
I believe I read that somewhere.
Maybe
Perhaps
an old
Daily
Bread.
Bread. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we got all our skate knowledge from, except for the full torque. I've never said that.
No.
Have you ever said that? Full torque?
For Farfanugan?
Yeah.
No, I still go with the German Farfanugan.
Yeah, me too. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say full torque in person.
No, I mean, they had a bunch of silly names. They were like, I think when it first came out, it was like, the first thing I saw was Reverse Royale. That's what they called it in Some Free Advice too, when Julio did it.
Oh, shit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like an alley royale.
Alley royale, yeah.
Yeah. It's like alley unity, which is controversial, would be like kind of like a reverse unity by that same logic.
Wait, so then if reverse or alley-oop royale are caught on, would alley-oop unity then be more acceptable?
No, I don't know. This is just, I was thinking about it the other day. Alley-oop porn star because I was saying recently we're at because the weekend thing. The things at the skate park have been like way different, just like friendlier. And so like these like skateboarders like genuinely interested, like what's an alley porn star?
Wow, really?
Yeah, but then like I was like explaining it what it was, and I was just like, why did they name it that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
a crucifix would have been like a cool name because it's like a T, like you know what I mean? And it's like that, and it's like still has like the badass name quality that like a porn star has, but with like some kind of attachment to the trick. So if anyone wants to start calling it a crucifix, that's okay.
And then we got the Christ grind too. Christ grinds variation.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Colin, you kill those. I
like ones that make sense. X makes sense. Unity makes sense. Soul.
Unity would have been a better X grind than an actual X grind.
Soul makes sense, but I prefer SOLE.
Why?
Because it's the sole of your foot. And soul, come on. That's like some like sublime hippie stuff. Come on.
Maybe that's the inspiration. They were listening to
I know,
Sublime.
and that's the problem.
It was the 90s. It was the 90s.
That's the problem. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we kind of got off topic.
I
That's
would
okay.
accept any of those terms if someone were to use them in conversation with me.
Cool.
Yeah, I like how you said about the language too before, because you kind of mentioned it as it was a different dialect in a way. Like we all speak English, but there's different slang terms in like at the UK they speak that we don't. Even Philly to New York, we speak the same language, but you guys say like John and shit like that. And like in Australia, they speak English, but they have their own slangs and shit like that. You know, it's kind of similar to skating because we all speak the same language, but we just say things a different way sometimes.
As long as the person you're conveying, you
Understands?
Yeah,
Yeah.
understands it.
then language is doing what it's meant to do.
Exactly. I like that.
It's a more open-minded way to look at it, I guess.
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that skating's been at like that really cool point where like every few years that something new happens and makes it exciting. And I feel like that's happening now. Like you said in the beginning, I kind of was able to relate like, and I think just being older too. Like I was being like a traditional like older person in the sport while I was like sticking to what I did and what was comfortable for me, because I think another thing is like a lot of those little things, like you're at risk of like, you've already like built this name of Colin and you're taking a risk to like humble yourself again, learning new things. And I find myself like that because Bellino will like be pushing me like to try like a lot of like these new things. And a lot of the time, like it's new for me, but I've been, skating whatever, however long time. And so like doing those things, you're at risk of looking silly or maybe like
being vulnerable.
I think when you're experimenting in this way, especially when you have like an established name, it's a risk, like, because you're kind of like putting yourself out there in this way. So
yeah, that's a good point too. Because Colin, do you ever feel like that when you skate? You do a lot of kind of out there maneuvers. Not out there, I mean like it hasn't been done before type shit. Do you ever do something like, damn, is that okay?
Or like you question it?
Yeah, you question it, or you need like opinion from Sean to be like, is that okay? Is that cool? Is that corny?
Well,
you definitely asked if it's corny. I could picture you saying it right now.
you said it right there. Like, do you ask Sean? Absolutely. Like, he is probably like the number one person I go to for counsel when it comes to any type of trick, because he has a really good eye and a really good understanding of how things could resonate, especially with when a camera's involved. But I also think like knowing how to film too can sort of bring certain things to life, maybe in a way that they hadn't been previously seen before, and definitely pride ourselves in our ability to make skating look the way we want. If you find that it's pleasing and looks good, I'm flattered to hear that. But truth is, we really do this for ourselves, for our own satisfaction first. So as long as I'm happy, he's happy, then it's a good day. Some days, though, I like having skated more than I liked the skating itself when it was happening. Because we're not always just going out to have fun. I mean, a lot of times we're going out to attempt progressive skating. And that can be very brutalizing, especially when you're trying something complicated, that's technical, that you might have not done before. It's not really like a joyous thing. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll make a comparison here with like a bodybuilder. I don't like do any of that stuff. But like, imagine if you're you didn't know. But imagine if like you're testing like how much you can lift. Like you're not like, I don't know, like if you were smiling while doing that, like what kind of psychopath are you?
Yeah.
Like that's why like going after some of these things that we're doing, it's like, well, I'll say I don't enjoy skating. I enjoy having skated. And that's part of the attraction for me too, is also being able to push myself and test my limits. Like it's more than just a fun activity. I would actually say I look at it as more as something that's been rewarding, more so than something I do for fun.
So when you go skating, do you look forward to the satisfaction afterwards more than actually skating?
I like the process. Transformation comes when you're uncomfortable. And I enjoy when we have these moments. I wouldn't say it's fun, but you trust the process and you know what you're going to get in the end when you put yourself into those situations. And I think Sean and I's desire and yearn to want to be in those situations is, I guess, why we perhaps get the recognition we do.
No, it's true. It's true. Like when you're, I mean, I think there are times when skating can definitely be fun. Like, you know, you're on a mini ramp, for example, or you're doing like P-rail, you and Sean in the basement, like maybe not filming or something. But yeah, there are like tons of times where skating can be very frustrating. You know, you're there and you're like, like trying to get this thing over and over. You're exhausted. You're getting frustrated. You're trying to make what's in your head happen in your body and at the location that you're at. So I can see what you're saying, and it being something more rewarding than fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're similar to me in that I realized recently that I love being like not progressive. I can't think of the word right now, but I like fulfilling something, like the satisfaction of doing something. Well, I don't know why I can't think of the word. Progress, not progress. Why can't I think of the word? I'm horrible. Oh. My words are way off right now. I should have read a dictionary before I started this podcast today. Yeah. But yeah, just the satisfaction of actually accomplishing something is like what keeps me going a lot. Whether it's skating or work or whatever it is, drumming. If I like
fulfillment.
Yes, maybe. It's not the word I'm looking for, but damn it. Okay. If anyone in the chat can think of the word, let me know.
That feeling becomes addictive in ways too.
Yes.
Like I start to find myself getting anxious and frustrated if I'm not going skating. Like I'm definitely obsessed with it. I think that's safe to say.
How many days a week do you skate? Just the weekends?
Weather permitting, a couple days a week. Try to get some kind of exercise in. Definitely if the weather's nice. We are very fortunate to live by a lot of good plaza style cement parks, and my brother's in the same neighborhood as me. So yeah.
How old are you?
I just turned 38.
38.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny. It was something I was talking about with John, because John was really close to me and probably the person I'll skate with the most, but see a lot of your skating and I'm like, I feel like they can do this and progress if they continue this way to like they're in their 50s
forever.
Like it's just, and you just see some approaches that don't look as sustainable. And so like that was like,
we have said that before too. And
yeah, I mean,
we finally have Colin here to talk about that with.
And that's like a big, I mean, for me at my age, you know, I'm 39 and I'm like, so I see some of that and I'm like, well, I want to be able to progress and also be able to continue skating at that age. So I think like how is your body feeling? Do you feel that that's true? Like, do you feel like that's something that you can do?
Absolutely. I've noticed though, as I continue to age, you have to make adjustments. I'm definitely not enjoying adult beverages in the way I used to. And I do it because the benefit I get is the ability to wake up feeling strong, healthy, and motivated to go out and skate and test myself. And as you age, you can't be like that wild 21-year-old that wants to go out, stay out late, and you just bounce off the ground. You definitely have to be very self-aware of what you can do and your limits, and know when it's time to pull the trigger, like a risk benefit scenario. Like I like to think that there were some pretty big tricks done in Spacement 2. Like Sean front torqued a kink rail, big kink rail.
Big kink rail. That rail's scary as hell.
Yeah, I mean I put on my Gap jumping hat and did a couple. I mean, it was no 18, but there were some bigger gaps in there that I haven't done in quite some time. And it's because I've made those changes, and I really do feel great. I feel healthy.
So that's mostly physical? Not mental?
It's a mixture of both. I mean, having the experience of skating for over 25 years, like I know what is required to land, say, a 13 stair.
Right.
But finding the motivation and the energy to boost your confidence up so that you're ready to try it is a different story. And certain days feel better than others, and taking care of your body is definitely part of aging and growing with skating and thinking about longevity. But am I going out every day and gonna 180 a 13 stair? No. But for filming a video, I wanted to challenge myself and kind of showcase all the things that I've done over the year. I wanted to show some of the bigger things that I have in my wheelhouse. I wanted to show technical ledge skating. I wanted to I did a rail in that.
I was not impressed, but I was like happy in a way, because I know that you and Sean both are capable of doing all these crazy, insane tricks. You're some of the best skaters ever existed, you know, and you've been holding back. I feel like that's what it is. You hold back in your other videos, but this one you kind of let loose a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone and channel a little bit of that youthful energy that I would have demonstrated in much younger years. Was it a banger rail trick? By no means, but I felt really good about it.
Yeah,
I did. It was kind of funny. I was like, I'm going to go to this spot and I'm going to do that today. I didn't do anything but that.
I can see the smile on your face, how happy you were from that.
I was pumped. It was cool. It was an interesting feeling. I haven't felt that in quite some time. So just grateful to have had the body to allow me to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's being disciplined and making those choices.
Definitely. You can't, especially the older you get, you can feel it, and you can't burn the candle from both ends. And like you said, if you're going, you got to be the risk versus reward, and you just got to take care of your body if you want to be in skating. You know, you could start with like jumps up. It's not going to hurt. It's turmeric.
It's definitely not going to hurt.
It's not going to hurt.
It's going to help.
But yeah, you know, it's funny like that you mentioned that. You've been. It's funny. You don't do down rails a lot, and I did notice that. And the first thing I noticed when I was like, Colin's like, he's getting serious again, is in the Them Skates thing in New York, like you true Macchio'd a rail to like Louis 360 out, and I was like, whoa, that is like.
That's what I'm saying. They've been holding back.
Yeah,
you've had this in you the entire time, but just like haven't done it, and it's understandable. But still, like to see you do it.
No, it's just cool to see like that, like. Because obviously like you're a master of all these things, but then you still have these other things that you can just tap into when you want, and it's cool to see. I was going to mention also, like, you've been competing in a lot of events, and you talking about jumping the stairs made me think about the finals of the BPSO when it kind of went to like the rail, and you were up there like jumping the stairs. I was like, wow, dude, like you and your brother like really killed it that day.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I've made some changes in my life regarding my health. And when I am in New York and you feel that energy from the crowd and you see all the people you respect, like watching, like you don't want to show up like some punk, and you want to represent. And I got that vibe. Like we grew up with that.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I don't look at these contests like I'm gonna go compete. Like I don't set like this expectation to win or even place. I just tell myself, you're gonna go out there and you're going to demonstrate the best you have to offer. And if it's well perceived, then so be it. And I'm thank you. I'm flattered.
Yeah, no, it was cool because you know. I don't know about you, but me, as I said, I'm like 39. So when I get to like some of these events, people are like, "Oh, you're gonna compete? You're gonna skate?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna put my skates on and get like a couple tricks just to like show some legitimacy and some face. But like as far as like put myself in the competitive atmosphere, But it's also how you look at it too, because I have some older friends like Dominic Wagner, like he pushed me to skate at like the winter clutch. He's like, oh dude, just skate and have fun. Like I'm here with my friends. So I think it's how you look at it. But I know I just been noticing that you've been putting yourself in that atmosphere more than some prior years.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get
fun.
out of contest now?
Visibility, I guess, to be completely transparent. Sean and I are really proud and fortunate to have a little small company in this industry that people are willing to support. So thank you for everybody that continues to support Basement, whether it just be some kind words or purchasing the products we have. It means the world to us, and it definitely helps us show up to events like Blading Cup or any contest out there that we've been to. I'm sorry, what was the question?
It's like, what do you get out of the contest now? I know Sean goes in to win it, but I feel like you have a different attitude towards it.
Right.
Sean goes into every contest like, I'm winning this.
Like what I originally said, visibility. Just like, hey, I'm here. Like, I'm showing up to skate. Like, I'm a skater. I skate. I'll skate for fun. I'll skate for a video. I'll skate in a contest. Like, I just want to skate. And that's more or less it. Just letting everyone know.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are even just excited when they go to a contest or an event. They want to see all these people, see all the pros that they see online and on the internet and stuff. And then they get to see you skate in person, because no one really gets to see a lot of big names skate in person. So even people like you, I get excited to see you skate in person. I don't get to skate with you that much anymore. So if I get to see you skate at a contest, that, you know, a lot of people, I feel like, come to see that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I can think back to the one and only ASA that I've ever been to when I was a kid. This is pre-sponsorship, pre-flow era me. But I went to an ASA with some of my high school friends, and we saw people like Aaron Feinberg, Champion Baumstimler, Eric Schrein, Matt Andrews. And can I tell you any of the tricks that I saw that day? No. But I remember them being there and just so excited to see them skate. So I definitely think that's important, to show up and just put them on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like the Veterans Cup is all about at the Blading Cup, because that's one of my favorite parts of the weekend. I know a lot of other people, it's their favorite part too, because you wouldn't normally never ever, even on video on Instagram, get to see Arlo skate, Rollinson skate, you know. So to see them skate in person and it's almost like putting on a little show for everyone else, you know.
Yeah.
They kind of like, some of them, I know Randy wants to compete. I know Randy wants to win. You can tell by the way he skates, but most of them are just like skating with their buddies, you know. And it's so entertaining to see in person, because you don't get to see that ever anywhere else.
Yeah. For me, that was one of the highlights. Once again, at Blading Cup, was just watching Randy throw down on the level that he threw down. He also has like a very strong presence too. Like he's interacting with the crowd as he's skating contests. I mean, he truly is
it's like Montre style, kind of.
Yeah.
Montre does that too.
I love a little bit of showsmanship. I don't have that element to me myself, but I definitely notice it and respect and appreciate those who are able to do that. That's definitely an interesting skill to have. But I mean, wow, like he was in the first video that I bought, right? VG3, and to show up as a 38-year-old and watch him do that, I mean, oh my God, where's like the Rollerblading Hall of Fame? Give this man a Lifetime Achievement Award.
For real, dude. For real. Dude was so impressive. His skating was so impressive. Like, I had people, because we were at the booth, so I was busy, but I didn't get to see much of it. I saw like a lot of the stuff after, but people were coming up like, yo, people who didn't skate or people who were new to rollerblading, or like some quad skaters who were like, this guy Randy, or this guy in the orange skates.
Yeah, the guy in the orange skates.
It's crazy. And to see all the footage after, he killed it.
It's a lot of energy for an older gentleman, I would say. He could definitely had more energy, or the same energy as a lot of the people in the regular pro contest or AM contest, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Eric Schrein and Abdil as well. I definitely saw some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah, who are some of your favorites in the Veterans Cup? Randy, Eric, Abdil?
Yeah, obviously. Eric, though, specifically has a special place in my heart. I don't know if I've shared this story before.
Ooh, let's hear it.
But when Sean and I had really gone to California for the first time to skate street, we stayed with the Esco Zoo guys. So Mike was living there at the time. Sagona, Abdil, Eric, Louis, like everyone was always together. And he was just such a really amazing person to meet. Like he was one of my idols. Like he was one of the guys I was scribbling his name on my backpack in elementary school. Like I'm like this person skating. Like, but anyways, first time we went to California, I remember I had like this really powerful moment in when driving around with Eric. But I need to tell this before this will make sense. So at the end of VG4, Eric Shrine has a shot where it's just his eyes in the rear view mirror, and that's how the Respect the Architect section fades out. And I'm like in awe that I'm driving around skating street with this guy many years later. And he has like some mix, you know, there's music going when you're driving around. And this song, Tupac, Old School, comes on. And if you know the hook, it says, "What more can I say? I wouldn't be here today if the old school didn't pave the way." And I'm sitting in the back seat hearing this, and I'm seeing his eyes in the reflection of the rear view mirror as he's driving us around. And I'm like, I'm living my dream. Like this is what it's all about. And that was just such a special moment for me. Sometimes people say, don't meet your idols. That would definitely contest that statement because he was everything and more. Eric Shrine is a solid dude. Shout out Eric Shrine.
Love that guy. Hell yeah. Shout out Eric Shrine. He killed it too at the Veterans Cup also. I like, you have a lot of poetry style references in skating too. I feel like that was very poetic, by the way. I think hip hop has a lot to do with it because you just said Tupac, you know. Yeah. Last time you were on the show, I think I got an Amazon delivery. Last time you were on the show, you quoted Nas as well. Do you have any other like hip hop quotes that relate to skating? I actually, before you think about it for a second, but I remember there's a Gangstar quote that you said back in the day, like back in like the early B Unique days when you started skating B Unique. Do you remember what it was?
I know this. I know the Nas one.
Go on.
It was from the song with Nice and Smooth. It was, damn, I put myself on the spot for this one. You don't remember it? Feeling Satisfactory from a street crowd reaction. Yeah, there's a year. Remember that? And I actually stole that from you. Kind of stole it from you. And because I was in school at the time and I wrote like a paper on how it relates to skating and contests. And I don't remember the story of the paper or what assignment, whatever. But yeah, it was relating to skating too. And I feel like you do that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when you're inspired by all these incredible skate videos, you're going to be naturally exposed to a barrage of different genres of music. Hip hop always had a prominent place within skating, so it makes sense that the lyricism you'd be hearing would impact your life. And Guru was definitely one of the kings at, you know, putting that good moral fiber in his lyricism. Mm-hmm. That Moment of Truth song. Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of your love for hip hop, I don't know. Maybe I think a lot of people who know you know, but I don't know. Maybe some people don't know that in the new Spaceman 2, they're like the high pitch rap. That's you.
Yeah.
The opening freestyle.
Trying to do my best impersonation of Bugs Bunny. It was very like Mother Goose nursery rhyme rapping. But we just wanted to kind of go in line with, you know, what Basement's all about, which has a hip hop style. We definitely were into watching cartoons growing up, video games, that sort of thing. So we wanted to try our luck and see if we could make another skit similar to the one in Fish Guys 4, but with knowing that it was going to be premiered at Blade Cup, we wanted to kind of open it up and allow the crowd to kind of settle in, set the tone, and then boom, right into Sean's part. So I think it did a good job at doing that. I hope it did, at least.
It was very unique, and obviously it made a big impact on people. Billy mentioned it, obviously. Yep. I heard other people mention it as well, and you're up there with the ranks of Frankie Morales, who who raps in skate videos, Julian Ba, Dre Powell, and now Colin Kelso.
Yeah, I wouldn't fit myself into the bracket of those guys. I feel like I'm more of like a gag. I'm not like seriously doing it. But it's fun. It's part of the skate video production.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys put a lot of production into all the basement videos, but specifically, I guess, basement, Spacement, and stuff like that too.
There's an Instagram handle, and the name escapes me at the moment. Maybe someone could put it in the chat. But my brother shared with me this one person that takes old cartoons and puts hip hop to them, so it looks as though the cartoon character is rapping. So that's kind of what
such
inspired.
A good concept.
It's awesome. Check out the handle if you have a chance.
I'm very curious about this now.
Yeah.
Leave it in the comments because I want to see it too.
I know. Or just remind us later when you remember it.
Yeah. I'll ask Sean.
Or Sean. Yeah, Sean.
So going back to contests like Blade Cup, BPSO, and you being active, like what do you think of the state of contests in skating at this moment, or state of skating in general?
Absolutely. Before I share though some of my thoughts, I just want to first let it be known that it is not, I would imagine it's not easy to set contests up. I would imagine that working with a budget has unique challenges to it. And I think the folks that do dedicate their time to having events like these should be celebrated and recognized for their effort, because it truly is a remarkable occurrence that these are happening, and I know that a lot goes into it. But with that being said, I feel that there's a couple areas of opportunity that maybe we could hone in a little deeper on as far as like a collective group. I definitely think recognizing certain, or the differences in certain disciplines, right? Like a contest like Winter Clash or Feast is like big ramp style skating where you're going to see flips, disasters, spins to grinds, that sort of thing, where risk, the component of adding risk into your run is rewarded. I think understanding that there is a discipline of that style, but then also recognizing that there is a plaza style element. And I hope I'm not butchering it, but I do believe that's what Blade Cup is more or less trying to accomplish. They're trying to give some kind of ceremony to the plaza style of skating, which is I assume more focused on like consistency, style, creativity, not so much maybe amplitude or risk. Not that they're not factored in, but I think other variables in which you can grade skating are considered. And then you have like vert contests, obviously, which I'm maybe those are far and few between. And then flat ground. I think there's opportunity to perhaps have contests, and I think I've heard of some events going on for like flat ground, but I think that would be a fantastic area to get some rules behind and kind of delve into, because there's a lot of talented people like imagine like Stu, Mike Torres, and Junk Q.
I would love to
skating
see that.
But you wouldn't have maybe, and don't take this the wrong way, but like a skater like Diaby Daco and CJ Wellsmore, Roman Abrate, like you wouldn't put them in a flat ground. Not saying they couldn't or wouldn't, but
They're not known for it.
they're not known for it. I would love to see them in a setting where they could really, bring out their skills and be rewarded for it, like Feast, Winter Clash. I think the Plaza style, you would probably see your like progressive street skater getting rewarded, like my brother, for example, who's very technical, like with his grinds and his intricacies there. Someone, you know what I mean? Like, because at the last at the last Blade Cup, there was a sub box, not the recent one, the one prior.
Spring one.
There was a sub box, and there were people doing, I think, like cork 900s over that. But then you would see stuff like True Fish to Backslide to Macchio or something go down on the flat bar, and it's like, you can't compare those two things. And I think having the rules and understanding written out and published on a website would make it so that there's less flack afterwards from the audience. Because one of the things that's a little disheartening is like seeing people bicker about like, well, it should have been this or it should have been that, or I didn't understand why person X didn't get this and person Y got that. And it's because, and excuse me if I'm speaking out of line here, but I don't think there are any written rules governing these contests that someone could look up online. Like, if I wanted to know the rules of NFL football, I could type in NFL rules and see the rules right there. Now, if say you're watching a Super Bowl and no one's scoring points, they're not going to be like, all right, well, everybody take their helmets off and every first down is worth 10 points now. Like, let's make it more dangerous and higher scoring. Like, that will make it more exciting. No, because now you just tarnish the game and you're not playing football anymore. So that's why you have to have rules in a contest format so that people have a clear understanding of what they're getting into.
Yeah, the criteria. Yeah.
Right? And I've seen judges do this where they're like, oh, let's, like in a final round, and don't take this the wrong way, but at the recent contest in New York, my understanding based on what was disclosed in the beginning of the contest was that the final round would consist of the entire course. And then it ended up shuffling over to the rail. And that was fine, but I just felt that was like, oh, we're kind of like changing things now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because it was what the crowd wanted, if it was what the judges wanted, but those little things that happen can be confusing for some people.
Definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like for the New York thing, it was like, oh, the whole course, right? And
it did start out that way too.
Yeah, and I took it over on like 2 months, so to give myself a little grace, like I kind of like, Bashi wasn't able to run it, and he said, "Can you take it over for me, or it's not going to happen?" So I just like took it with what I had in 2 months and tried to make something happen there. So it wasn't as organized as it could have been, or things have been in the past. But I will say, it was like, okay, the whole course, and then someone.
It was one person to start.
Someone
was
like, yeah, there's a whole rail over here. And then like a couple of people went there.
It just naturally
And then
happened.
It just like organically turned into like what can happen at those kind of, at like the finals of like these events where like it becomes like, you know, more geared toward in the amplitude direction. But I agree, there needs to be those like criteria and explanations for like, this is like the culture and idea of this contest, and this is, and you know, just so there's clear lines.
I also, though, a word you mentioned, organically, and even when I had this thought enter my head, I also said, well, is this part of rollerblading's identity? Is this part of our culture that we sometimes add improvisation into these types of events? Because there is something magical to be said about it. I mean, watching my brother skate that day was phenomenal. Watching other people like Sean Darce was incredible. Anthony Marchione, like all those guys ripped. I myself got up there and threw a 0 down the set. It was fun. Like I'm not diminishing it or taking away from it, but with the idea that people would like to see rollerblading maybe back in the X Games or enter into the Olympics. And I don't know this for certain, but I wonder, do we need to have a set of rules? Because if you were to explain why it should be back in the X Games or in the Olympics, wouldn't those council members want to know how exactly it is we rank ourselves? And wouldn't it be helpful to have it documented and published online?
That I remember that was a debate too between skateboarding when it did come into the Olympics, because that was something they had the same conversation too, from what I understand. Like, you can't really judge this. Even we were talking about Singapore before. Like, when I was in Singapore, they were telling me that the government wanted to create like a regulation skate park, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there is no such thing. Like, you could make like a regulation size football field, a regulation size basketball court, but you can't make a regulation skate park. You know, there's no rules to like what it is that we do. Skateboarding had the same problem. I don't know how they came up with a response to that, but it is similar to the X Games and shit like that too, because they have a weird point scoring system. Even, you know, X Games, NIS, ASAs back in the day, like Aaron Feinberg just got 89.25. What the hell does that mean? You know, like they've been doing that for years, forever. And I'm sure at that time there was an official rule book with like ways to, you know, judge criteria and all this stuff. So there are ways of doing it. I'm sure there are. That's way more official than like a blading cup or anything like that.
And just to be, judging is always going to have problems. Like, you know, in
any sport,
you look at like the biggest organizations in boxing or like UFC, there's always controversy.
Yep.
In judging, even if they have like but there is a criteria you can go and look to. Like, you know, they do have like, you know, 10-point scoring system per round, and they'll have like a hierarchy of what's like the most important, like damage amount of punches or like whatever.
Yeah,
and
that makes a little more sense.
Yes.
As well.
So I think it's going to be a problem that's like never fully like truly solved, because there's always going to be these bias and different people's. It's subjective in a lot of ways, like the judging, but at least something to look toward and to put down there, like, so there's a more clear idea so people know what's happening.
Right.
Or at least some guidelines like you're talking about as well. Like, before a contest, like, make sure everyone knows the 30-second run, you know, tricks landed counts, consistency counts. If you fall in your line, like, that's going to hurt you. You need consistency. Creativity is a huge thing as well. I'm curious how, because you mentioned the Spring Cup, how Diaby was doing the Cork 900 over like the gap thing, but then there's also people skating like a P-rail. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think there's a resolution for that? Because
it's like putting a marathon runner against a sprinter. There are different athletes.
But that's part of the game.
It's a weird game.
It is a weird game. That's part of it. Yeah. Even like street court, gravity games or X Games courses back in the day were like that also. They had huge down rails, huge quarter pipes, launch boxes, but there was also like a flat and a cross ledge that people would soul grind as well.
Yeah. Me personally, take this with a grain of salt. I think if there's sub boxes and big quarter pipes, like, that is inviting for a flip.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't hold a vert contest and put a ledge at the bottom of a vert ramp and be like, hey, like the guy that just like the guy that just did the switch true spin, he won the vert.
You might
contest.
Be onto something, Colin.
I know. I think that
the guy who just did the switch true spin won the vert contest.
Well, like, actual vert riders would be like disappointed with that, which is why like actual plaza style street skaters are getting upset if they saw a Cork 9 win that.
So I think, you know, definitely being more like intentional with the distinctions would make it like, because I don't know if Blade Cups like come out and like been like, this is what it's just like showed like what they're displaying is like, it's like that kind of style. They're celebrating it more, and I think that's when people were kind of complaining about the course, and when we said something on like a Channel 11 not so long ago, well, it's like, no, I think it brings more of you have to show what you can do on these things.
Creativity.
And then someone was saying that, like, kind of making an excuse for the course, but
I saw that comment too.
but no, it's like that would be the opportunity for that person to display that side of skating, where like you don't get the opportunity to, if it's like, if you have like just a launch box and like 2 quarter pipes on either side, and it's a launch box contest, it's gonna have like spins, flips, you might get the guy that grinds on the side of it, but generally it's just going to be that. So yeah, I think it gives that opportunity to see the other side of skating and those other skaters too, instead of just like high amplitude. And it would be better in the future if we had those distinctions. And flat ground is something that I know they try to do it at the Blading Cup, but it would be cool to see something like how far that could go and what that could be at its highest level. It could be interesting.
That's even a harder thing to judge, I think. How would you like judge wizard skating style stuff? You know what I mean?
You would have to ask Joey, Todd, and
Set the
Leon, and get expert opinion from the expert. That's who should truthfully be writing the criteria for something like that. I would think that there would be no one better than them for that task. Right? It makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
It does.
I also want to say one quick thing. I didn't mind the Blade Cup course at all. I don't ever have an opinion on the courses because it's really up to the skater to bring out how they're going to approach it.
Like a street spot.
And if like, and I heard some like I've heard a lot of great comments, but I heard some negative stuff like, oh, this isn't like allowing skaters to show true potential of skating. And I'm like, did you not see Dominic Bruce do a flawless line with no flaws?
Mm-hmm.
When he came into that first 30-second run that he did, it was electrifying. He didn't flying.
Yeah.
He was doing flat land. He was hitting high airs on the quarter pipe. He was doing technical, creative. I mean, this guy was doing it all. And the true highlight of watching that contest was actually his first 30-second run. I thought it was
I agree with that.
Remarkable.
Yeah, seeing what he was able to do with that, like, is kind of what I was like saying. Like, it speaks to what he can bring to like that kind of setup, and like that you get to highlight that. Yeah.
His power was illuminated full spectrum in that third, and it was so cool to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the course was fine.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that makes sense.
I mean, look at I'm a guy that constantly skates imperfect stuff in the streets. Like anybody that's ever tried to go out into the street, nothing's perfect. Nothing ever will be perfect, and it's not even I think saying perfect is even the wrong word to use. It just is what it is. Either like man up or don't. Like that's on you, not the course.
Yeah.
Do you think people are spoiled because there's such an influx of perfect skate parks all over the world now and all over the country that people are just like, we skate this shit every day. Like it should be like some next level stuff. Because you just said you skate street, things imperfect all the time, especially that's a rugged city. Like, a rugged city.
That's a feature on the street.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what we all grew up skating. But do you think people are just spoiled by like these perfect skate parks nowadays and they see Blading Cup and they're like, come on, you could do better than this?
Perhaps. I think that maybe there's like this expectation that it should be similar to a Winter Clash or a Feast. And I think it's like comparing apples and oranges. Like,
I agree with that too.
They are what they are. Like if, like, when you see something, and I'm going to go back to Dominic Bruce's line again. I mean, that was extremely special, and he used it the way it was. I should not the way it was meant to be used, but he used it in the way that showcased everything.
He maximized its potential.
Yes,
I think.
Absolutely. He's really awesome.
Yeah, that was. Well, yeah, when he has his on moments, he's on. So that was like really special to see, like a lot of that, and like a lot of the skating that day. Yeah. I have a quick because we were just talking about the flat ground stuff. So I wanted to pick your brain on this for a second in a bit, not right away because we're having a good time right now, but we're going to get to questions from other people. I've already been looking at the chat. People have a lot of questions for you. But before we get into those questions, so speaking of the flat ground and growing on that, how, I know you experimented with like some of the bigger wheels stuff, some of the wizard stuff a little bit just recently, right? And I'm wondering what's your experience with that, and how far you can see yourself taking that, or what your experience has been like with that, because
no, absolutely. I consider myself by no means an expert. Like I shouted out the people that I admire that I think are really making that type of approach look exciting. I'm still borrowing from them. I'm looking forward to seeing more content from them. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about that, but I definitely see myself trying to expand on it more. I think I know some of the basic moves. I wouldn't say that I'm very technical with it. There are people out there that are extremely technical. Mike Torres has been bridging those universes together in his street skating for quite some time. I think this one person I met recently at the Blade Cup who is really good at wizard moves and not only doing wizard skating but also the bridge into aggressive is Elfie with Wispies. His name's Michael Kraft. He is a really talented skater. I've in recent times been like paying attention to his stuff, and I think he's really good at that. I definitely wish I had more people in Philadelphia to do wizard skating with. Typically, I find myself doing it alone when I go out, kind of just like finding some smooth ground like a tennis court.
That was my problem too with it.
Yeah, it helps to have like a crew. Not necessarily everyone's on board with it, which is what it is. But I really think that having wizard frames is going to be like a fantastic introduction to learning those moves, and those tricks are actually like the fundamentals are on their website. So like you could watch a tutorial where they're and that's what I did for some time. Like I would just watch in slow motion like how to properly do a gazelle and the different variations and stuff like that. And then I wanted to incorporate it into the street skating, and I found that this particular flat setup I ride is pretty good as far as getting the response for some of those wizard moves. And
Amazon again, I'm sure.
So basically I'm riding 58 millimeter flat dead wheels, 92A on the outside and 95A in the middle. And I wasn't a big believer in this technology, and I'm now kicking myself in the butt for it, because my brother was actually telling me all along, like, this stuff's fantastic for wheel slides and those sort of maneuvers. But when you put the 95s in the middle, it reduces chance for wheel bite because they're harder. And that hardness over time also doesn't wear as quickly as the ones on the outside. So you get that banana rocker, which is, in my opinion, extremely necessary for the gazelles and the pivot work. But I've found that to be a good setup if you're looking to bridge the worlds.
I didn't notice that you were back on flat rocker. How long has that been happening? Because I remember you used to be flat Nazi, and then you went anti-rocker for a long ass time. And I remember even like Sean used to call you out on it, that you like can't believe you ride anti-rocker now.
Yeah, I mean,
did you only start riding flat because of the wizard frames?
No. I honestly forget how long it's been, but I mean, with different technology, you get different responses. I feel that you could put up an argument for, like, especially middle wheel tricks with an anti-rocker setup. You can find different angles to position the backslide foot and the torque foot that you're not necessarily going to get with a flat setup.
Yeah.
Even with hard wheels, there's still even if you don't get wheel bite, it could bump you off, if that makes sense. But what we do to kind of fight that occurrence is also having loads of golf wax that you can get at your local supermarket, or should be able to get at your local market. But that stuff's the best, and it definitely helps with wheel bite on top of having a harder wheel in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see you sliding around too, because one thing we kind of talked about this off camera before we started, but like being the transition wizard moves on any skate pretty much, including aggressive skates. And I find wheel slides not extremely easy, but way easier on big wheel skates than small wheel skates, like my regular aggressive skates. And I struggle with that all the time. You seem to do it very easily. You just have a lot of wax in your wheels, or what?
So, like, I also think, though, if you have the banana... So let me ask you a question. Is your aggressive setup banana rockered?
No.
That might be the reason, because some of those wheel slides, he's more or less putting the majority of the weight on the two middle wheels.
Yeah.
So it's a little less frictionless than if all your wheels are touching. Me personally, I don't like fresh wheels.
Yeah, me too.
I like the wheel.
You got to break them in
after like 3 weeks.
But I do have a flat Aeon 80 big wheel setup. It's not rockered, and I can slide on them buttery. But still, with the small wheels, I just can't do it.
Huh.
I don't know what the science is behind it or whatever. I just eat shit almost every time. And I watch your videos. You slide all day doing good wheel slides. And I look, and I specifically look, and you got these little dead wheels on. I'm like, how is he doing that so well?
You also need to be in search of the right ground. Like, there's certain areas that we would skate, say, like at a street spot where it's like, oh, wheel slides aren't going down. But if you have that kind of like toothy cement, like with little dusty almost, like chalk almost, like on the surface, like that helps. I think tennis courts have that kind of gritty, toothy ground that's pretty conducive for that sort of thing. Marble works well. Like Sean did a extremely long one at Cecil
Yeah,
Bean.
I remember that. Yeah,
that ground is more or less like ice too, which definitely helps. It's not like he did it like in like the middle of like some gritty street.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me ask you this then. Can we expect any wizard skating from you in any future basement projects? Because I think that'd be really cool to see. And it fits your whole style and vibe.
Yeah.
Or just the videos in general.
I would absolutely love to work on something like that. Sean and I put out that little wizard snippet that turned into like a reel on our Instagram,
right?
Yeah. Which was really fun. We just did it after work one day, kind of goofing around. He just got the brain dead wizards and he was all anxious to try them, and we went out and just came away with a couple clips that turned into that. But it was really fun. I would definitely like to work on something. It just, like Sean and I are always working on a project together. So there needs to be partnership buy-in. I wouldn't say it would be impossible, but we don't have anything planned at this moment in time.
I was hoping you had something planned.
No.
You guys have to excuse me for a second. I gotta get this package before it gets stolen off my doorstep.
Yeah. Do your thing.
So talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
We are in Staten Island still, where there's there's a drug problem, and people like to steal things from the front porch.
Yeah.
It happens.
Get the package.
Get the package. Yeah, man. But that's it's cool to see all the progression, everything going in that way. And it was, like I said, Spaceman 2 was awesome. it seems like you guys are always working on new things with Spacement, like updating the line, doing new, and like being on top of the promotion. Like you can count on it. It's always something happening. I know you said you're not working on anything with the wizard skating, but are you guys working on anything for like the next Basement project? I know winter's right around the corner, which might make things tough sometimes, but
yeah. So with winter, obviously lots of skate park skating.
right.
It's easy to warm up at a skate park. It's meant to skate. You can typically hit it at a nice hour when the sun is at its warmest, and you don't have to worry about crowds because for most people, they're not going out to skate in those temperatures. So with all that being said, there has been discussion about potentially doing like a Zephyr style edit over the winter time. Don't hold me to it because we haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but perhaps that could be something.
That's cool.
You got some ball skating in the winter like that.
Regardless, though, of whatever project, definitely expect, since it is winter here on the East Coast, more park skating content. I don't know if you like that or don't like that, but that's what's happening.
Well, I think it actually works well too, because like so much of like the Basement, like the image of the brand and everything is like tied in with fashion heavy, and I think I used to hate skating in the winter, and I still don't. I'm not the biggest fan, but like I'm like, oh, okay, like I get the you have more of an opportunity to kind of wear something different and
For
kind
sure.
of present
Yeah,
yourself
sure.
differently, which is like, you know, for me, like I was like fashion deaf and blind for like ever, so I would just like want to skate what's comfortable, skate in shorts, like, you know what I mean, stuff like that. But it's like as it gets warmer, oh cool, you get to like skate in like a hoodie and like some nice pants, and it looks different, it looks nice, and you get to kind of experiment with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's it's so funny how that can impact the vibe of your session, but it's true. Having an attire that you're feeling definitely can set the mood off.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And winter, you can definitely
There's no shortage of clothes you
layer
can throw
up
on.
and-
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, winter's a good opportunity for wizard skating also because there's no jump. You don't have to jump necessarily. You don't really need much of a warm up. It's more
Right.
wiggling around kind of.
That is true, and we have some great places to do it, which I feel like they aren't hard to come by. Right?
Just like a flat ground.
basketball court, empty
They're
tennis
pretty
court.
empty in the winter as well, I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
why these Canadians are so good at this shit. Because they like in the wintertime, they get all the tennis courts empty, the basketball courts, the parking lots.
I believe it's pretty snowy. I think I just saw Todd skating, like he shared like an old video maybe of him skating
I just saw that too.
in a skate park
Yeah.
where there was like snow everywhere.
You only ski like part of the skate park and
Yeah,
there's snow
yeah,
everywhere
yeah.
else. Yeah.
That's so cool. Those guys are a breath of fresh air.
I love watching their stuff, and I'm mad that I haven't been so focused on their skating in the last 15 or so years, and only the last like 3 or 4 or something like that. But yeah, definitely inspirational.
That's what I love about, like, some of my favorite skaters aren't necessarily like sponsored brand rollerbladers. Like, I think there's so many.
It's not the biggest names.
Like a guy like Colin Martin.
Mhm.
Like, he invented like the compression coil theory stuff. Like that's like super scientific, revolutionary. Like he if they could give like Nobel prizes for like experimental work, like he deserves that recognition. He really in a community that's I think challenging to be innovative in and come up with new ideas. Like he really has some compelling thoughts
He really
and
does.
approaches. I love that guy skating a lot.
It's cool to think about those people who bring those new ideas, and like then it kind of goes on and gets spread around and borrowed,
Yeah.
and just becomes like intertwined as a part of the culture.
I would like to build on that a little bit because we talked about how in a contest setting, like having like structured rules can help minimize, not completely alleviate controversy, but perhaps minimize it to an extent. But then you have like this street skating element which you don't win at street skating. It's something you give yourself to. You give, like, the most celebrated people are those that can share their approach and inspire somebody to want to try something new. So it's interesting that we have all these different areas.
I love how you said you don't win at street skating.
No, you don't.
No, I never thought of it that way.
You just give, and what you get is rewarding.
That is true. What is your most rewarding aspect of skating now? Since you have I would say, successful skating company, clothing company, you make your videos, you go in the contests now, you're trying different styles of skating. What's your most rewarding aspect of skating at the moment?
I don't want to sound arrogant or like conceited, and I'm sorry if it comes off that way, but truthfully, the most rewarding is after a video project, watching my skating, and then also being able to look at previous skating and make a comparison, and I can see the progression, and that makes me happy and satisfied, and it's motivating to keep delivering in that manner and keep challenging myself to embrace new areas that I can focus on, and what's it going to look like when I bring it in to my approach, because after all, I think it's just layers and layers and layers. Like, think about like learning how to jump gaps, like, right? You like jump a stair, then a 2-stair, then a 3-stair, and you keep layering it, layering it, layering it. Like, after time, you learn so many grinds and you figure out different switch ups, and I'm just bewildered that the flat ground component hasn't gotten more popularity until recent times, because it's such an obvious thing. Mm-hmm. You're connected to the ground with these wheels beneath your feet, and a lot of emphasis is put into sliding on your plastic boots, which is freaking cool and super fun. But I'm just surprised. Maybe it was because we didn't want to associate with like rec skating or figure skating.
I think that's it. I think that's really it, because blading had at least definitely a big part of it. Mm-hmm. Because, we had like this, we had to prove how like masculine we were unsuccessfully for like a really long time. Yeah. Like, believe us, we're tough.
Yeah.
We're really badass. Please, God, believe us. And then it kind of got to a point where we're just like, okay, no one can define or not, because I think at some point someone's like, we all realized that, the biggest things were kind of happening and still no one gave a damn. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, might as well just have fun now and just kind of play with it. And I think that which is what I was kind of describing earlier as like a risk, like to take that risk of trying something new or putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way that might not be received as the coolest because it's not in the zeitgeist of what's cool in the culture or what's acceptable, and taking that and being like, here, I'm going to put kind of like my reputation as this guy, Colin Kelso, who, 540, like 27 stairs or whatever, and all this other stuff, and then kind of bring this to it. And yeah, that's kind of what I was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes it way more accessible too. I was gonna say it before when you started talking about like flatland stuff, mm-hmm. because you could do flatland on a bike, you could do flatland on a skateboard, even like a scooter, and then skating, we always kind of needed like a ledge or like a rail of some sort to jump on and grind and do something, or stairs to spin off of, or whatever. You wouldn't really just go to a parking lot and 360 flat ground and like, okay, now what do I do? But now it's so easy. Like, even like what I just said with winter time, like you don't really want to warm up and do all this crazy shit in the cold, but it's pretty easy. You don't got to find out a skate park to go to, where you want to go. Simply pick a flat ground area and just mess around.
Yeah.
Put some music on a Bluetooth speaker and just cruise around and swivel your feet around and you figure something out.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the future will be incorporating a lot more of what wizard skating is teaching us. I definitely see that being incorporated into aggressive a bit more.
Mm-hmm. this actually leads to a question I wanted to ask you during this whole interview, and I think it's a good time to ask it. It's a good segue. We are going to get to our live guest questions in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But as someone who's very thoughtful about how you're putting out your skating, who's someone who's very committed to it for a very long time, and doesn't seem like that's changing anytime soon. And you just mentioned the future and what do you think will be happening in the future in regards to like the wizard, the movements and some of what will be embraced. What do you see? I think this is like a fun question, for the future of rollerblading, in not only the way people's approach to skating may change, but in just where do you think we go? Because I think we're kind of, and that's that question that could be kind of cringy at times. Where do we go? But you mentioned the X Games, you mentioned the Olympics. Is that something you think about? Is that something that you've considered? Like, what do you think? Two different questions.
That's a loaded one. Well, I think there's also going to remain. Well, look, those wizard tricks that are being bridged into the aggressive world are here. I don't think that when I said that I think it'll be in the future, I didn't mean like in a general sense, like that everyone's going to adopt it. I meant like it's definitely going to be picked up and carried on. I definitely see that happening. And I think you're still going to have people that play the classics, so to speak. I'm quoting my friend Ben again, because I'm telling you that podcast is one of the very few that I'll go back to and listen to again. I think it has some really, really good replay value, and his ability to describe this topic of pedagogy, I think makes sense, and it's worth a listen. But I think skating is at a really unique place where you see new ideas being shared, borrowed, integrated, but I also see it being done in ways where how do I explain it? Like Dominic Bruce is a character. Like Sean Darst, Alex Broskow is a character. Like they have like this presence to them, like regardless of which way they focus or position their skating to the audience at large, like they're just so great at what they do, and they've really become their own people. That's just like to name a couple. Like I obviously think you guys have your own individualized approach and style to skating that is uniquely you. And I think when people get to a point where you can actually have that, where it's widely known, like this is this person, this is their brand, this is what they're into, like that's an accomplishment in itself. I think we're going to continue to have people that are individuals and contributors in their own special light. And I think it's all incredible and amazing, and it's all vital to the future, because you need diversity and different ideas, and you need people to protect and question. So it's good if you don't agree with it, and it's good if you want to hold true to this certain approach. Like I like when people vehemently protect their vision and idea for skating. You should, because that means you care. So I think we'll continue to see that, and hopefully rollerblading could get maybe a little more attention. Like X Games publicity would be good. I think I'm quoting Arlo here, but he said it might not necessarily be the most credible representation of our sport, but it's definitely fantastic at attracting new participants and consumers, and then core brands can then benefit from those potential consumers that would eventually get filtered to them. So I would love to see it go that direction, and I think being organized and thoughtful in everything we do is going to play a role in eventually getting us there.
I love that. I don't. Are you going to say something?
Not of importance.
Okay.
No.
So, I think it would be, unless you have something else to say, I could talk to you. You fascinate me, not only as like a friend, but as a skater and then someone. It takes me back to the freestyle rolling. We were having like similar conversations. You and I chatting on a couch.
Yeah, I should have put that on like that scene on loop in the screen in the background between you two. That would have been perfect.
About the philosophies of skating. Here we are doing it again.
With stacks of t-shirts behind you.
We always had incredible combos.
Yeah, and then I've always appreciated your thoughtful take on skating.
Ditto.
But
we can move on to questions.
I think it would be good at this time to like not keep all the questions for us asking, because I think some people also are curious about some things with you, if that's okay.
Bring it on.
And then I would also like to shout out our sponsor for this episode, Blank. Shout out to Blank. If you're watching us live, please hit the like button. If you're not watching us live, you could also hit the like button, subscribe, 5-star us, and become a Patreon if you want. We could just want to keep making shows.
Before we do questions, we have the Patreon questions, super chats. We get to them first. We split our super chats with our guests. And one thing I wanted to ask you about before we jumped into these questions, Colin, was kind of on the contest tip, but more about like the events thing, because there was years where you were just like stuck in Philly, almost like you didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything, had no interest in anything. All of a sudden, like a year or two ago, you're at like every event now. You're out there smiling. You got a basement booth here. You're actually competing in the contest now. Like, what has changed in your perspective that you do all this now compared to the last like 10 or so years? Because I feel like I haven't seen you at a contest in like since like Winter Clash back in the day or something.
I'm embarrassed to say this, but it truthfully is, I think, because of drinking. Not that I was like some raging alcoholic or anything, but like I like to party and have a good time, and I really just think that I was indulging perhaps a little bit more than I could on the weekends after a hard work week, and it just wasn't that motivating to wake up even just a little bit. Like, you can feel it, at least I can. And I'm not condemning that or saying that everybody needs to do that. I'm just saying, for me personally, since you asked, I would associate it with that.
It's definitely true. Like, if you're even if you're like, not drinking during the week, you opt for like a Friday and you have like a few drinks, you don't wake up like on Saturday like, let's rip.
Yeah.
You wake up on Saturday like all right, some breakfast, take a shower, like, and then when you go to the skate park, you're not as energized as you are if like, like there'll be times where like I'll be on I'm not drinking, I'm eating healthy, I'm waking up, I'm working out, and like you wake up with energy, ready to skate, and you it shows in your skating. You could feel it, and you feel the difference. Even if you don't have to be like a raging alcoholic. Like, you could just feel like as you get to this age, 2 or 3 beers, and then the next day, and you're like, I'll lay in an hour longer in bed, or like 30 minutes long. Just like just does. You don't wake up with that energy to go after it.
And this coming from somebody who like doesn't drink a lot myself, like I always didn't understand how drinking got so involved with skating, in the sense that like, everyone just kind of drinks all the time, sometimes at the sessions too. Because I was just watching Spokes by David Sizemore, his latest video they just put out. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's one of the fucking best videos I've ever seen.
Loved it.
And the entire video, in between, they're always drinking. And like street skating drinking too. Like, not even just like afterwards, like you go to the bar or a restaurant and drink afterwards. And I'm like, how are these guys skating so good and drinking so much? Like, they don't seem to like mesh, from the outside. But how does it work? I don't get it.
You'd have to ask them.
And they're not the only people who do that, by the way. Other people do that as well. I just noticed that recently.
Well, I think to some things, like, it's culture. Like, some in European culture, drinking has a different approach to it, like, than maybe American, that has more of an excessive approach. The where it might look
abusive.
It might look like there's a lot of beers at that session, but they probably just got like a 6-pack and there's 6 guys, and they might like had a beer, and I'm sure they'll have like a couple more. But when they're skating, they're not drunk. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't imagine so.
I think it's something along the lines like after a few spots, and it's like, all right, we've got some clips ready. Let's get a 6-pack. How about, like whatever, something like that. But it's that kind of culture can be unhealthy depending on how it goes. But it exists in a lot of other communities. Like I thought, like maybe like rollerbladers can drink too much. But then I was like going to like bike messenger communities, and it's like way worse. And then like you go to like in like some music, if you're playing music or traveling, like that's there a lot too.
Yeah.
Like, and not everyone partakes. There are people who don't drink in skating, people don't drink in music. But I think it's just like for whatever reason tied into, maybe because we're spawned from like skateboarding to some degree. It's like all ties into like the culture of, and to what makes it attractive to some people in some way. Like it's like this rebellious, chaotic, like it's not like the traditional, like bladers or skaters aren't getting like the traditional like football players, usually basketball guys who like go and show up. Like a lot of the mantras going around with skating was like, I never liked being on a team. Remember that? Like everyone's like, I never liked being a coach. I like doing my own thing. That was like kind of like the skating mantra with rollerblading or skating. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
It was always like something that was there as celebratory after a day of exploring new lands and conquering these obstacles. You're kind of like a Viking.
See, that I kind of understand.
You got like a cut on your elbow. Yeah, you went to battle. Yeah, just gone to battle with the spot.
Yeah, and then you huddle around a computer while the filmer captures the footage. And you talk about it. It's ceremonial. It has like this bonding camaraderie type thing to it. So I think I just got a little too caught up in those fun moments, and it became something that I had to check myself on.
Damn, you just mentioned like I'm sure you still do it too, because you skate with Sean all the time, and you're always filming, watching each other's clips. And you just said that like after this session you huddle around the computer. Since we're all in the same room, I instantly just thought back to like staying at your parents' house when we were filming like the Truth One, and like we would go in that little iMac upstairs, and Sean would be capturing the footage, and we would all just like watch the clips and shit from the day. I just got that flashback just because you mentioned that, and I guess we're all in the same room together, so it brought back some memories.
And it gets you pumped. You're like thrilled, like your adrenaline's up. You're like, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and do this again.
Yeah.
There's something really fun about that.
It's cool.
Those were the days. But let's jump into questions if you're good for it, Colin.
Yeah,
you up for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to do some Patreon questions first because we prioritize on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming part of our Patreon community, click the link in the description or go to patreon.com/JumpStreetPodcast. But first question is from Dan Barnes, who says, you and Sean have been powerhouse in the skating industry for over 2 decades, and particularly in Philly. How is the scene in Philly these days, and how do you always seem to be skating new spots in every edit? Keep rolling, Colin.
Wow, Dan Barnes, one of the nicest backslides in the game.
Oh yeah.
I know Dan. Well, thank you. Number one, really appreciate you sharing those kind words. I'm just very fortunate to have a brother like Sean who is just as deeply passionate about skating as I am. The scene in Philadelphia is few couple friends. Majority were just skating skate parks together. But for this recent project that Sean and I worked on, Spaceman 2, it was just primarily him and I going out because our work schedules are pretty much parallel to one another. So when he's off, I'm typically off, which allows us to meet up, link, go to skate spots. We have a pretty good understanding of Philadelphia, so it's not hard to navigate and find new things. One thing you may have noticed, and perhaps you're wondering like how we might have navigated, say, New York or Baltimore. There's actually a website, I think it's called findskatespots.com, where you could look up spots in Baltimore. So what we would do was we'd make a list of all like these iconic spots that we wanted to hit, And then as we were en route to hitting all these spots, anything that
Find
stood
everything,
out.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of premeditation and improv, but that's pretty much the formula we've been using these days, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, I was curious about that too, because I noticed that you always find new skate spots generally, and I'm like, damn, because that's like one of the hardest parts of street skating for me, at least anyway. Like hunting down new spots, that takes a lot of energy, you know,
Yeah.
especially when you live in a big city like Philly or New York, where you have to actually cover a lot of ground to check out new spots, you know.
Absolutely.
We have the next Patreon question from Dan Bond, who I think mixed you and Sean up. So I'm going to reverse the names, how it's written out. But so you and Sean have done an almost uncountable number of NBDs, and every section has a ton of new NBDs. For anyone who doesn't know, NBD has never been done. Who else has as many NBDs as you and Sean? And which tricks have you done that you don't think you could ever replicate again?
Oh gosh. Probably. Well, that's a very tough question, because I would need to know what you're calling NBD, and if I also think it's an NBD. You know what I mean? Because I've seen this happen where people think it's an NBD, but maybe it wasn't. So one of the things that I want to be extremely careful about is taking credit for something when it's not properly due. I try to do like personal MBDs, not so much as like compare it to other people. I don't know. That's a tough one. We would need like a fact checker of some kind, and we need to be specific about which tricks we're referring to that are our MBDs. If there was something in specific you had in mind, I could tell you, but in general, I that's a tough one.
NBDs, the way you skate, are tough too, because like, just for example, you doing a Christ backslide, landing Christ fakie out, that's probably an NBD, even though it's not a huge hammer, you know, for example.
Ooh, you know what? Here's something good to cite. So, in my recent part, I did a fakie front farf to toe press wheel slide.
Mhm.
I was going to say next.
Also did a royale to heel press wheel slide on a bench as well. And Chris Edwards had come up to me. Shout out Chris Edwards and that cool vert trick that he did with like that cess cross toe slide thingy, whatever that was called. That was dope. So he came up to me and was like, "Wow, like I've done those on vert before, but I've never seen anyone do them on a street spot." And he referred to one of the tricks as a Melvin. I forget what the other one was called.
There's a camel toe and a Melvin.
I think that was it.
Camel toe's the toes, Melvin's the heels.
That was it. So like, are those NBDs? Because I would probably give Edwards the credit for those tricks, and I'm just a street skater that applied that borrowed information and demonstrated it on a street obstacle.
That's
like,
true.
Is that worthy of counting? I don't know. But regardless,
I would say yeah, because like, you know, one of like your most famous NBDs is the Street 900. You know, 900s had happened before that.
Yeah, that's true.
You
actually
still get that credit as a Street 900 because, to your point earlier, like these are different things when it happens on like a vert ramp and on street, and so I think it makes sense there. But you have to specify it. It's not like the first toe press ever done, but it's the first grind or toe press on street or something like that.
And I would definitely like circle back to some earlier Canadian skating, like especially from Danny Beer, because there's things that I recently did like a Danny Beer binge watch and visited some of his old edits, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like he did that then? Like, and I'm sure that if you went into the archives of Mushroom Blading and some of those other guys, that you could probably find something that would myth bust the NBD.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if most of these things came from Canada. In fact, I'm probably certain that they all have.
I feel like DL was one of the earlier guys, and then they just all went to Canada. Like, you know, I feel like DL
Sure.
had a big impact on Canada, but they also like did their because I think one like the first guys I saw that was maybe, I don't know if it was before Joey and Todd because they've been around for a while, but when I first saw Mathieu Ledoux,
Oh yeah.
like when he was like really big clothes and using his hands, like
Mhm.
you know he was doing like some of the
Kongs and parkour
and
moves,
stuff, and yeah, they've always just had their own approach, like the whole Canadian scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It incredible. He's also a really, really inspiring person to watch.
We need Matt on the show too, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
Next coming up guest. I know we tried before, but yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's good.
Throw that out there.
I agree. Get him on.
Yeah, I think he was in the chat before. I don't know if he still is, but we're gonna head to our super chat questions, and first one is from your boy Tree Rudolph, who says, "Hey Colin, you're the GOAT. How often do you have a trick in mind before getting to the spot versus skating somewhere for a bit then figuring out a clip to film? I'll be curious to see the process."
Yeah. So there are some times when I'll show up to a spot with an idea and it'll go down in the manner in which I thought. And that can be interesting and fun and cool to have. Specifically in recent times I did like the shuffle alley P rewind on that rail. Like I purposefully went to do that on that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other times, like any street skater knows, you're going to run up on a spot and you'll look at it and then you'll be like, oh, wow, it would be really cool if this happened. And then you go after trying to perform the set act you set out for. But then after tinkering, you're like, wait a minute, I should actually do this instead. So sometimes it's a mix of premeditative thought. Sometimes the initial idea doesn't turn into the final idea. I really just try to think about the skills that I've acquired over the years and how I can use them to make different obstacles come to life in my vision. So that's primarily the process. It's a mix of, like I said, premeditated thought and improv.
Mm-hmm. Next super chat from Christopher Candia, who says, what are you both doing to stay fit in regards to dieting or exercise? Love and miss you both. I guess talking about you and Sean.
Candy, yeah, he's the homie from Kansas City. Hope you're doing well, Chris. It's good to hear from you. Thank you for the question. Typically, I like to get in a lot of cardio exercise. I did hop on the Peloton bandwagon, and I feel...
You and Sean? Because I know Sean does it too.
Yeah, he got on it. He got on it after I did because of how much I loved it.
It's the best, isn't it? I have one right in the other room.
It's I feel that those bikes are good for a couple reasons, because it's not high impact on your joints. Like you need your knees. So like jogging or running, which are good high cardio exercises, might not be the best if you're trying to use the benefits you're getting for like something like street skating. So I definitely would say the bike has been beneficial for me because I can burn anywhere in a 45-minute time block to an hour, somewhere between 500 to 700 calories. That's just me personally. I know other people that go at it harder can maybe do more or maybe do less. I mean, it's like how much you want to put in. But typically that's what I'm doing on a regular basis, like day to day. And then just like going into the grocery store and buying non-processed foods. I love to cook.
Did you actually change your diet?
Yeah. I mean, well, when I guess when, you know, after a night of drinking, you're like, oh, I want a cheesesteak or some pizza and let's just order it. It's easy. We're hanging low. Like, yeah. So I've started cooking more, being cognizant of eating more vegetables. I still love dairy products. I'm not a health expert, by the way, so please don't take me for one. But
I'll put a disclaimer at the bottom of
I
this.
follow a couple little principles. Like, I want to be light on my skates, so burn a lot of calories and eat non-processed foods. And that's pretty much the extent to my health. I do a little light weightlifting, like anywhere from 3 to 10 pounds, just to stay a little bit toned.
I could tell.
Yeah, really? Oh my gosh. Making me blush.
That's funny. I was going to say, because Sean was, I remember one of the last time I skated Philly with you guys, Sean was big on working out at the time. I don't know if he still is.
Oh, he's an animal.
He still is?
Oh, yeah.
And
He's got to show off those tattoos also. So your body's got to be straight.
He lifts heavier weights and does it a lot more frequently than me. I don't like do it for more than probably like 20 minutes every other day or something like that.
It's true though. You can tell the difference when like you're light on your feet. Like, not too long ago I got COVID, and when I was sick, I just didn't have an appetite.
Mm-hmm.
So I ate like once a day, and I was like skipping breakfast and just drinking a lot of water, and I lost like 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And skating was like a lot of fun. Like after like getting rid of like some of that extra weight, you know, I was like, dang, like my like ankle thing that gives me problems in my knee was like not the same at all. It didn't feel like a problem at all. And just like moving around, I was just like, oh man, I want to stay light on my feet. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. I definitely probably eat one semi-large meal a day. Like typically in the morning, my go-to thing is like Greek yogurt and some bananas. It's just like maybe a little granola, some little drizzle of honey if I'm feeling crazy.
Damn.
But no, like that's it's a low calorie thing. It's good for you, and it can get you through the day. And then I'll come home after a day's work and cook. And
What about some wings?
I am not frying my wings these days.
Oh,
I am baking them.
You bake them?
Yes. I have one of those little
Not even air fry?
I don't have an air fryer, but I bought one of those baking sheets that has like the raised little
The tray thing? Like the wire rack?
Yeah. And they turn out good. I get my wing fixed that way.
Nice.
You guys both need a culinary channel. Billy's Breakfast and Colin's Culinary. All right, cool. Next question we're done with the super chat questions for now, at least. This one is from, I don't know how to say this name, but I'll say T Chenka Podcast, who asked, Colin, what is the best and worst part of having a brother that skates as good as you?
The best and worst part? Well, the best part is...
I love this question.
is having... Oh, this is going to get funny. So the best part about it, obviously, is having a best friend that's available to skate typically when you are, who is just as passionate about it as you are. We definitely push each other and feed off of each other, and we have just great conversations in general that have pushed us through all these years to keep going at the momentum we are going. Now to get to the downside of it, and this is where we're going to sound like an old married couple. The things that we choose to fight about are things that people would probably be like, oh my gosh, that's like so petty or so trivial. But framing of clips comes into question often, and my ability specifically to pick a first frame. If I'm not on point the first time, I definitely go through a scolding that leads to arguments at times, where it would probably be pretty embarrassing if we weren't alone and other people were watching this go down.
We've witnessed this a few times, me and Billy.
Oh, goodness.
You guys should have like a behind the scenes, like almost like the B-roll section of like a video where it's like you and Sean arguing about this stupid shit. Like, you chop my head off, you chop my feet off here.
Filming arguments comes up. Sometimes, like, our ideas for music selection, but not so much that. I don't know, just like little petty arguments, or sometimes we'll take like shallow stabs at each other's skating.
I've witnessed that before too. Damn, people don't know the half of it.
Where it turns into like us defending our philosophies and ideals and values, and it's just goofball nerdy stuff. But I wouldn't even call it a downside, because sometimes those arguments happen because we just care, and it makes a better product in the end because we have had them. So I don't know.
Brother stuff.
Yeah, brother
That's
stuff.
brother stuff.
Yeah, your brotherly
That's all
arguments
brother.
are epic, from what I remember back in the day. There should be a reality show on YouTube doing that. We're gonna do a couple more questions. Another super chat just came in from Chase Foley, who asks, in like 5 years. Oh, hang on, I read that wrong. How do you envision Colin Kelso in 5 years, in and out of blading? What you thinking?
My 5-year plan.
Colin, do you have a 5-year plan?
In terms of skating, it's just to continue skate. Oh, by the way, hi Chase. Thank you for the question. Hope you're doing well. Chase has designed some graphics for Basement in the past. In fact, he was the first artist we've ever reached out to for any type of design feedback, and he did the bee with the leaves. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, just staying healthy and able to skate, and I want to continue working on video projects with Sean because that is really what makes our hearts sing, and you can definitely expect that. As long as we're healthy and able, we'll be out there making video projects. But as far as like some like formal 5-year plan, I guess maybe or if you're thinking in terms of a business perspective, perhaps. So let me answer it that way. So in terms of growing Basement, because typically that's what people they want to know your growth and development with a 5-year plan. So yeah, no, there's no plans to expand. Basement is self-sustaining. So we're very content with the amount of merchandise that we're producing. We don't depend on it to pay, say, our electric bill. So there aren't any plans to grow, but we would like to collaborate with more like-minded individuals and companies that we admire and respect, because those projects are always fun. So hopefully a bit more of that, but nothing formal, nothing documented. And we're just looking to stay self-sustaining.
You're hired.
Boom.
We're gonna do like a couple more questions. There's a couple of good ones in here. Then we could do our little Patreon video with Colin. We didn't even ask you about that, by the way. So we'll talk about that later.
Let's do it.
But so this one is from, I just had here. Lander asks, where did Galazzo come from? Do you like soccer? I don't even know if that's how you say it correctly.
So
is that how you say it?
Galazzo.
Okay.
I believe that's the correct pronunciation. So when we were in recent years we were asked to collaborate with Dead, and it only made sense. Obviously, Alex is someone who we've grown close to over the years. He is one of the driving forces behind that brand. So it's always a pleasure to work and produce some type of video content alongside him, just because we have so much respect and admiration for that guy. And when we heard that we could get our people together, like Matt, Luda, it just made sense that we would say yes to something like that. But needless to say, they wanted to do soccer jerseys. I think there was some signals in the market that would have suggested soccer jerseys were hip and popular. So I guess running off that concept, we knew we were going to do those jerseys and have an away and a home team. And obviously, like, we got the home team jerseys because we were filming the project in Philadelphia, and then the guys that were coming into town got the away jerseys. So just like running off that idea.
I didn't even grasp that concept. I remember I was there when you guys got the jerseys too. I didn't notice that was the concept. There was the home and away jerseys.
Yeah. There was definitely like a lot of thought put into it and purpose behind it. But Sean and I went to Target and bought one of those little foosball tables and put a Dead sticker in the middle of it and titled the video Galazzo, because it's the definition of golazo is like a unique goal. Like when you score a goal in a very unique way. I believe that's the definition.
What does that have to do with soccer then?
We just wanted to run off the strength that jerseys were hip, and we wanted to incorporate that into the marketing, and it made sense that we would open it up with a home, with a home team and an away team playing a game.
Cool. I thought there was like a soccer team or something like that. I didn't know. That's why I was curious about the reference too as I was asking the question.
I mean, I'm not a soccer or football fan particularly, but I'm also not like a big fan of sports in general, so don't take offense to that.
I'm the same way too. You could have said whatever right there, and I would have been like, okay, sure, I agree.
U.S. team is looking good this year in the World
it?
Cup. Yeah, looking good. Gotta say, had a good showing against England, 0-0, but still.
A lot of controversy going on with the Qatar shit. Oh, that's all I know about soccer right now.
I don't know anything about Qatar. All I know is it rhymes with guitar. That's all I know.
Actually, that's not even how you say it. It's Qatar.
Oh,
when you're actually there. But I have one more question here. I don't know if you had any other things there, Billy, that you saw, but this one kind of interested me from Justin Johnson, who asks, do you have any missing clip or clips that someone like Adam Johnson just never used that you would love to see the light of day? I don't know why you specified Adam Johnson. Unless Justin Johnson is Adam Johnson on the low.
So there isn't anything that I can think of off the top of my head that hasn't seen the day of light. Does that day of light? Light of
light of day. Same thing.
Yeah, there's nothing that really stands out because it's been quite some time since Sean and I have been donators of footage. We've been taking things into our own hands since we've done collaborative work with you when The Truth was initially sparked off. So
that was the last video you worked on with someone else?
But we had reins. Like we had some skin in the game with that because it was like a partnership.
Yeah, our thing, yeah.
It like in previous times before that, it was like, okay, dump the footage with the sponsor and then they'll be responsible for piecing, chopping, editing, etc. So and honestly, even if there was something I could think of, it'd be so old and so long ago I wouldn't even care.
No Majet clips? Majet's not hiding anything from you?
You know what we do? It's more of something that we're hiding. But before Sean and I were in our first sold video, which was distributed through Video Action Sports, which was Apprehensions, we made a ton of like hometown crew videos with people we grew up skating with, people we went to high school with. And there's like a whole series of videos that we have that I don't believe they're available to watch online somewhere. But we used to have this little, I don't even know how we thought, I don't think I had a say in it, but the older guys in our crew came up with this video series called The Medical Moose is on the Loose.
What was that concept?
If you can get in touch with Scott Jobber Hines, ask him why, because to the life of me, I can't think why it was ever called that.
I know you.
Shout out Scott Hines.
Yeah.
You and Sean have been talking about for a while that you were going to do something with that old footage and mixing it as some sort of basement video of some sort. Because we've watched some of that footage before at the house back in the day. I remember watching it. I feel like some of the clips might have seen the light of day on like some sort of social media form, but
maybe
I think either you or Sean or both of you have been talking about incorporating some of that footage into some sort of project, like a serious project of some sort. I don't know if you guys still did that or I just made that up.
At this point in time, I think it could be cool to put them online, but like footage like that, I think would be best served if we were to ever do some kind of like Lifetime documentary, like Through the Ages type.
When you two retire, we'll utilize that footage.
I don't. We haven't really like had like this like idea that's like, oh my God, this is how to do it or any of that. We're still just focused on trying to like make progressive edits and, you know, like kind of like what we've been doing, just like filming new skating, not necessarily recycling things for the sake of telling like a story.
Okay. So if anyone wants to make a Kelso Brothers documentary, that footage might, be seen by everybody.
We have it, so it's that's a good thing.
Yeah. There's a lot. You're holding down a lot of stuff. I think that's all for questions that we have for now. I just want to give a quick shout out, real quick, little thing happening. Tim Parker's in the chat. Shout out Tim Parker, because if anybody knows, I think he started the first rollerblading podcast.
Rolling Revival.
Yeah. So we wouldn't be here for people like Tim Parker doing Rolling Revival like 15 years ago or some shit.
Yeah.
So just a little thing I wanted to point out right there. Shout out Tim Parker. Colin, before we bounce out of here and move on to our other Patreon stuff, any last words you want to say to anybody watching right now? I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but you knew this was coming.
I think the future is bright. I think as we continue to age, people are becoming wiser, more knowledgeable, more organized. And I think if you've chose to incorporate the hobby of rollerblading into your lifestyle, feel proud and good about it. And that's about it. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Love that. Colin, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. To our Patreon members, we're going to be watching a couple of sections with Colin exclusively for our Patreon community. So if you would like to be a member of our Patreon community, you can do so for $3 and join us.
As little as $3. Could be more. Could be less. Well, not less. Could be more, though.
We prefer more.
Oh, also, I wanted to tag along on that real quick, because there's been a few Patreon members of ours who we need like your address to send whatever it is, like your welcome package, some stickers. Even some of our monthly supporters don't have your addresses on there, so we can't send you anything, or you don't answer our messages. So if you are on Patreon, I just want to let you know, if you feel like you have deserved any of these things and you're wondering where they are, please check your Patreon accounts, because we probably slid in your DMs and you haven't heard anything. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody. So sorry about that, Billy. I didn't want to interrupt.
It's okay.
I just want to get that out there.
Colin, thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Feelings mutual.
The jacket's great. When some people in the chat were asking about it, is that going to be available?
This is from a previous drop. We typically are one and dones when it comes to the clothing we make. So
all right, so keep your eyes sharp.
Yeah.
If you see it out there, get it before it's gone, because you're never going to see it again.
I know. I also said I missed out on the red hoodie at Blading Cup.
Yeah.
I know. I saw them. I'm like, that's sick. You only have like 10XL left or something.
Yeah.
Gotta be fast.
But thank you to Blank for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to check out the 2023 Blank Team Skate, blankrollingproducts.com, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Later, everyone. Peace.